Ladies and gentlemen, our first one-on-one discussion of the day, Abu Dhabi's Sustainable Vision. May I introduce His Excellency, Dr. Tariq Bin Hendi, Director General of Abu Dhabi Investment Office. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start with an easy question. When faced with the significant challenges of the pandemic, how did Abu Dhabi drive investment and help its goal moving towards a sustainable, knowledge-based economy?
So, thank you for having me here today. It's a topic that we've been talking about quite extensively in Abu Dhabi around sustainability, about the long term versus the short term. And all of our policies and driving principles essentially have been built around this longevity, right? About resilience, about making sure that everything that we do, whether it be a JV with a company or a new initiative and a new policy at the government level, is driven by that long-term sustainability. Now, COVID actually amplified the need to focus on that. A lot of our programs that we had at the investment office were built before COVID, but COVID just highlighted to us what it is that we needed to really focus on. And so today when I look at the consistency, the commitment, that clarity, although it shifts at times depending on what's happening in the world because of COVID, it's still very clear that Abu Dhabi decided that we were going to balance lives with livelihoods, with a key focus on making sure that the people that live in Abu Dhabi are safe. And so COVID really made sure that we honored those commitments to the population. You can look at everything that it is that we've introduced recently, from all the visa reform to the passport reform to this Thrive in Abu Dhabi. And one thing that I'm very proud of that I worked on as well, which was this Abu Dhabi Residence Office. And this is a very, very important and I think one of the first ever to be done on a global level, where the expat population in Abu Dhabi now essentially has representation, right? Whether it's policy advocacy, whether it's a mechanism to be able to discuss things about the community, about living standards with the leadership in Abu Dhabi, and everything in between, it's there. And I'll give you just a personal anecdotal part to this. I'm half American. My father's Emirati. My wife is half Danish, half Rwandan. So my children are going to work in a world where sustainability, acceptance, resilience are all part of the model that we need to develop. And so it's very dear to me. It's dear to Abu Dhabi's vision long term in terms of how it is that we create this. And I understand I've just given you a very long-winded answer, but no. It's I think it's critical that we make sure that people understand that they are not just part of the solution, they are the solution going forward to how it is that we're going to be able to create this. Policy and regulation is simply a catalyst and an enabler. The population and the people that call the UAE home and everywhere else in the world have to drive this forward.
I think you've said to us there that sustainability is not a buzzword. It is all-encompassing.
It is definitely all-encompassing.
How is UAE Capital supporting innovation and research activity to upskill the workforce ready for the economy of the future?
So I'll answer that question in two parts. One is, Abu Dhabi has been focused on a knowledge-based economy for some time now. This has been a multi-year effort. Our long-term visions, whether they be around the environment, about the growth of the non-national population, the innovation, the R&D, and so on, has been a core focus of all of the policies that we've put in place. And so the government is very focused on that. They want to make sure that companies that are operating in Abu Dhabi, but as well as the infrastructure that's being built in Abu Dhabi, from the universities to the various GREs, the state-owned enterprises, are all adopting this as part of a core principle of, if you want people to be here long-term, they have to be both vested and invested. And so that's the way that we've designed the policy from a government side. If I look at it from the investment office, which is a 100% government-owned entity, all of the companies that we are working with today, whether they be Fortune 500 companies or startups, many of them coming out of Europe, Southeast Asia, Africa, the US, and elsewhere, are all looking at how it is that they can have that seat at the table with us to help drive a lot of that narrative. Companies today are not just interested in revenue streams. Revenue is great, but what they're really interested in is integration. They want to make sure that they're part of the movement forward with what's happening. So today when we work with companies, international businesses, it's very clear to us that we may have a financial incentive that we can offer them, But more importantly, we want to know what they're doing on the soft infrastructure side to help develop that knowledge-based economy that we are looking at making more robust. I mean, it's great that we have 14 universities, world-class universities in Abu Dhabi. Today, we now need the infrastructure and the ecosystem to plug into that and help develop that even further to provide opportunities for everybody that lives in the UAE and in Abu Dhabi.
Could you tell us a little bit about Abu Dhabi's plans to create high-value investment opportunities and generate growth in targeted strategic economic sectors?
Yeah. So, Abu Dhabi is a very diverse economy. Some of the economies, some of the sectors within the economy are dominated by some very large institutions that are, the stalwarts of our economy for, decades now. Others are now just being built, right? So today, if I take the example of the ICT sector, and I look at Salat, DO, G42 with what they're doing, and some of these other entities, there's a lot of major anchor enablers within those sectors, and now we're building out the SME component around that. There are other sectors where you don't have a dominant player yet, where everybody's coming to the fore essentially, and we're looking at how it is that we can help with the experimentation, i.e. the innovation, right? Driving that vested and invested model that I was discussing. And so today when I look at sectors like agricultural technology, biotechnology, financial services, not just banks, but everything around the financial services sector, including a lot of the ESG initiatives and products that are being offered today, which I'll add a point to that later. These are core sectors for the development of a more robust economy, and to make sure that that diversification that we are seeking and that we have aimed for and that we've built as part of our long-term vision is actually materializing through the government as a catalyst, but the private sector as the driver and the beneficiary of that outcome. All of that will lead to population growth. It'll lead to different types of opportunities. Frankly, when we were growing up, the opportunities that we had presented to ourselves were you either became a government employee or you went and worked at a bank, right? That's very different today in terms of the approach that the government has, whether it be from the Advanced Technology and Research Center, all of the different GREs that are now investing billions of dollars towards developing and essentially experimenting with businesses and sectors that, even other nations are not taking that bet on yet, is very important for how it is that we see both the success that we derive from failure, but the success that we derive from the private sector being the growth engine for our economy. So today we will put together any instrument that makes sense, whether it be financial or non-financial, to make sure that we support that growth and development and ensure that all of the sectors that are in Abu Dhabi are being very well taken care of, but that these core engines of growth and that innovation that we are seeking are moving forward. Just one final point on that.
Please.
And this is something that comes up quite frequently in my discussions with people. It's like everybody is focused on R&D and innovation. The whole region is looking at innovation and R&D. That's important because we believe that we have a competitive advantage, but so do other cities around the region. And frankly, we're no longer competing just in the region. We're competing with the likes of Austin, London, Frankfurt, and other places, depending on what sector you're focused on. But we don't look at it as competition. We honestly look at this as complementary to what businesses are doing elsewhere. So today when I have a conversation with companies in Europe, I don't say relocate to Abu Dhabi. I say we want you to do this part of your business in Abu Dhabi, and here's why it makes sense for you to do that here. Now, the competition, I think, is very healthy. There are some policies, some countries are announcing things that I think will need to be adjusted with time, but the core necessity that's driving all of this narrative in the region is youth unemployment. And we have to address youth unemployment. That's the only way we're really ever going to tackle sustainability at its root core, and that is that youth have to feel like they're, again, vested and invested in the future of our respective countries, and that's why it is that we're all competing and collaborating with one another at the same time.
Can we just for a moment drill down into that? I think one of the themes that I'm hearing a lot is that the pandemic has affected young people the worst. They haven't had any kind of network to base themselves on. They've completed their schooling, they've started their tertiary education remotely, networking and collaborating with more experienced people in their industries is not happening for them. How can we help them more?
So the model that we look at today, and this is something that we really passionately believe in, is that if you're going to integrate people into the economy, right, you've got to provide them with the right exposure initially. So a lot of the companies that we're working with, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, I even look at it, I have 2 young boys, they're 5 and 7. This is when you're supposed to develop your social skills, not stand 2 meters apart from your friend and throw Lego pieces at them, right?
And
I mean, that's not how it works, right? Yeah, exactly. So today when I look at how it is that we are providing that exposure, yes, COVID has, let's say, slowed some of that push that we have. But I don't think it's slowed down the exposure that we provided because we moved everything online. We provided that digital access, mentorship programs, internships, apprenticeships. These are core, signed agreements that we have with companies to provide that exposure to youth so that hopefully over time they learn a skill set other than what they've just learned at school, and they can then integrate into the private sector in the way that we want them to.
Well, there could be worse places for them to be, huh?
We're very lucky, I have to say.
Yeah.
And I don't say that because we're here. I say that because I see what it is that's happening and the commitment that the government has towards driving that knowledge-based economy. And really, it's, if you have a good idea, you're energetic, and you're willing to take a bet on what it is that we are pushing forward, I think you've got a lot of upside here. It doesn't mean that everything is designed correctly yet, right? This is an iterative process that we're going through. But at the same time, if you're not coming forward and presenting your ideas and trying to participate, then none of us know what it is that we might be missing out on.
Very exciting prospect. Abu Dhabi Investment Office launched a policy in February this year to maximize the environment, social and corporate governance benefits of public-private partnerships for investors and the people of Abu Dhabi. Why is this important?
So, if I move one step up and I look at Abu Dhabi in general, ESG is being driven across the board in terms of everything that we do, whether it's a public-private partnership, building a road and the Environment Agency being involved in making sure that the road doesn't cut through, a turtle sanctuary, for example, or something. This has been a core driver of what it is that we look. And look, frankly, it's not very often that you have a government anywhere in the world that has benefited so substantially from a natural resource that's trying to wean itself off that natural resource in terms of the alternatives that it's presenting. And that is because we do have these long-term visions for where it is that we want to be. Does that mean that we're going to completely eradicate our need to use oil and so on? No, it doesn't. But ESG allows us to work with companies globally. It allows us to work with policymakers globally and demonstrate, one, our commitment, two, the way that it is that we see things going forward, and three, frankly, anyone that doesn't believe in global warming needs to see what's happening on the global level in terms of heat waves and things that are happening. And so this is important to all of us, whether it be something very small that we do here on the ground, or whether it be global policies. If the world can get together and come up with a global minimum tax policy, I am sure that we can come together and come up with some very good policies around how it is that we treat the environment and this long-term sustainability. But back to ADIO. When we work with companies, many of the companies that we have approached have been very keen on understanding what is the ESG policy in Abu Dhabi. And so today we will work with any company that wants to come to Abu Dhabi. But we also want to make sure that if they haven't adopted an ESG policy or haven't looked at it very seriously, that we are then proactively engaging with them with that. If they have an ESG policy already, then they just benefit a bit more from what it is that we have to offer, essentially, right? There's a kicker, if I can use that term, in terms of how it is that we work with them. And so it doesn't prevent us from working with businesses. What it does is it allows us to have a different type of conversation with companies, again, that may not have looked at this very seriously, but two, that want to adopt it and don't know where to start. And that for us is very important. We want them to come in, we want them to be part of the fabric of our economy, but we want them to make sure, or we want to make sure that they are as integrated as possible with every part of what it is the Abu Dhabi long-term vision is, and there's been incredible buy-in on that side. What
an incredible opportunity you're offering there. Thank you very much for your time today. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. It's gone in the blink of an eye, hasn't it?
Thank you, it has.
Dr. Tariq. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Dr. Tariq Bin Hendi, Director General of Abu Dhabi Investment Office. Thank you so much.